This video was inevitable. There's no other way around it. Michigan State has been recruiting at a high level. Not at the level like Alabama or A&M or Georgia. But what you have to understand is it's only year 3, and Michigan State is not known for being a recruiting center. So recruiting as well as they are right now is crazy. And it deserves attention. So that's why we're making this video here. I've been talking about Michigan State football more recently because they're back to relevancy, I think. I think they're good. I think that Mel Tucker is a good to great head football coach, and I think combined with the resources that Michigan State is putting in, that Michigan State is on an upward trajectory. Now, some people don't want to admit this. That's their problem, because I think that, especially in the recruiting aspect of things, it's evidence as to what Mel Tucker and Michigan State are doing. They just landed 2 4-star commits in a single day. I'm not saying this is going to happen every day, but I think it's phenomenal for Michigan State. Michigan State under their Mark D'Antonio era was more about development, and it worked for a while. It worked for a while, just bringing in 3 stars, some 4 stars, and it worked. They were able to develop those 3 stars and 4 stars into their system, play this defensive style of ball, and win games. And eventually that system, because college football is an evolving, moving sport, eventually those things were phased out, and recruiting has become more and more and more important over the last several years, especially in the college football playoff era. Recruiting has been a must if you want to win a national title. You either have to have a top 5 recruiting class or top 5 average talent ranking, and if you don't have that, then you have to have one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. Georgia 2021 obviously being an exception to that rule, as they had Stetson Bennett, but they had one of the most talented rosters in college football in recent memory. 2014 Ohio State is a similar story. You have Cardale Jones at quarterback, who wasn't great by any means, but he was good. And with Ezekiel Elliott, with NFL talent on offense and defense, they were able to win a national title. And Michigan State and Mel Tucker, I don't know if this is going to happen, but they are aiming for the national level. They are aiming for the top, and it starts with recruiting. And this is where this video is starting off. I think it's just giving my general opinion on what Michigan State's been doing. What Michigan State has been doing, you look at their recruiting class, and we'll look into more of this later, but I see a few commits out of Florida, in Jordan Hall, in Clay Whedon, in Eddie Pleasant III. I see 3 out of Florida and 3 out of Texas. And then I see Brennan Parachek and Jonathan Slack out of Michigan. Those are 9 of their 11 commits out of 3 states. So, yeah. Michigan, Texas, I might have counted wrong, maybe it's 8, but Michigan, Texas, and Florida are where most of their guys are coming from. What Michigan State is doing is they're recruiting in the state of Michigan, which last year they were very successful at, getting the likes of Dylan Tatum, for example, and being in the running for some others. This year they've had success with it again. They're in the running for Jalen Thompson. They were in the running for Dante Moore for quite a while. What Michigan State is doing is they are siphoning off recruiting momentum that Michigan didn't take opportunity of, whether that was because of Jim Harbaugh interviewing for the Vikings, now that being used against him, or Michigan's lack of pouncing on the NIL opportunities. But what Michigan State's also doing is they're taking advantage of Texas and Florida teams just not being that good. Texas A&M going 8-4, Texas going 5-7. In Florida, you had the University of Florida just went 6-7, 7-6. I think it was 6-7. Miami just went 7-5. UCF had a down year and went 9-4. It's a down year by UCF standards in the American, I think. And Florida State had a losing record. And Michigan State gets to say, with less talent, we went 11-1. We arguably upgraded our defensive staff, with Brandon Jordan being one of guys who is involved with the NFL, trains multiple NFL pass rushers, helps guys get to Pro Bowls, etc. And the fact that the staff is young, there's a lot of hype surrounding Mel Tucker, whether it's promoted by his fan base, the media, him just being who he is a personality. All of these things coming together has helped Michigan State recruiting explode. They get to point to their past history in the past 10 years, what Mel Tucker has done in the past year, what they did last year, beating Michigan, going 11-2, winning the New Year's Six Bowl. They get to point to their resume, whether it's under Mel Tucker or Mark D'Antonio. They're more successful than a lot of programs that they're competing against. And they do have enough of an NIL reputation to also say you will get rewarded when you come here and play. And that's just my thoughts on Michigan State recruiting, how I think that it's being so successful. It's Mel Tucker, it's his staff, it's Brandon Jordan, it's Chris Kapilovic, the offensive line coach. It's the whole staff, their charisma, their development, just pointing to what they did last year and how they were able to achieve an 11-2 record with a roster that is not as deep as plenty of teams that they beat and competed with. They're pointing to a lot of these recruits and saying, you're better than a lot of the kids currently on our roster. You can upgrade our program and help take us to that next level. And kids want to hear that, and they can certainly do that at Michigan State too. Michigan State, they're being opportunists, and I mean this as a compliment, because I'm a Michigan fan and my university right now in the recruiting trail doesn't seem to be opportunists. Michigan State is, just like Ohio State has been for the past several years, and if Michigan State wants to be successful in the Big Ten, they have to emulate the program who's been the most successful in Ohio State. Nebraska's been trying to be opportunist on the road. They just got a commitment from a 4-star interior offensive lineman Monday, I believe. So Michigan State being opportunists, using their staff, always recruiting. Mel Tucker said that if you want to coach here, you have to always be recruiting 24/7, and if you don't, you might want to think about a different option, because at Michigan State it's all about recruiting. And Mel Tucker as a coach, whether it's a head coach or not, he's had a history of great recruiting success, especially at Georgia, where he was a defensive coordinator, helped them reach their first national title game back in 2017. Let's talk about the two commits yesterday, just for a brief few minutes. Jalen Braxton, Clay Whedon, both 4 stars. Clay Whedon's the number 21 interior offensive lineman. He is out of Florida, 6'6", 295. He's rated as a 4-star by the Composite, a 3-star by 24/7 Sports. Just them, not the Composite. And then you have Jalen Braxton, who was crystal balled to Baylor up until just yesterday, when several crystal balls for MSU came in, and MSU was the choice by Jalen Braxton. He's the number 27 cornerback in the nation, 44th in the state of Texas, and according to 24/7 Sports, excluding the Composite, he's still a 4-star, ranked as a 91, 21st cornerback, actually, and 36th in the state of Texas. He's 5'11 and a half, 170, out of Frisco, Texas. Clay Whedon is right out of Tampa, Florida. And Clay Whedon, one of his teammates on that Michigan, was actually on the Michigan State 2023 recruiting class commit list, Eddie Pleasant III. Both are from Carrollwood Day High School. I'm going to read an article talking about this. It's from Sports Illustrated, Fan Nation, Spartan Nation. We're going to talk about that. Then I'm going to move on to compare Michigan and Michigan State's recruiting classes and conclude this episode. And I will link this article down below, as always. 4-star 2023 offensive lineman Clay Whedon commits to Michigan State. Whedon becomes the second 4-star commitment of the day, which again, huge. Most universities don't get 2 4-stars to commit in a day. It's facts, and Michigan State, they got it. Carrollwood Day, Tampa, Florida, 2023 4-star offensive lineman Clay Whedon committed to Michigan State on Tuesday evening, becoming the second 4-star of the day for Mel Tucker and his staff. The 6'6", 295-pounder, it's a big guy, as you'd expect from a solid 4-star offensive lineman. So a guy who has room to grow, has potential, has the size. Number 347th ranked prospect in the country, according to 24/7 Sports. He's ranked 21st among interior offensive lineman prospects, and the number 69 recruit out of the state of Florida. Again, Florida and Texas, very deep. So when I was reading both of those names off to you, and they were 44th in Texas, 69th in Florida, it does not mean they are bad prospects, mediocre, or even just average by any means. Those states are really deep, and just getting in the top 50, top 70 in those states, getting some top 70, top 50 commits from those states is huge, because those two states, outside of California, I'd say those three generate the most talent in the nation. And they're very good, very disciplined. They develop well with high school football. So Michigan State getting in Texas and Florida is huge for Mel Tucker. And getting a 4-star offensive lineman is amazing for Chris Kapilovic and his staff, because Michigan State, look at 2022. They're likely going to have issues at offensive line because of depth, lack of talent, and injuries. And Michigan State getting a 4-star offensive lineman is a big step toward getting a deeper, better offensive line room that has a higher ceiling for development. And recruiting will help Michigan State in all aspects. And here, like I just said, especially on the offensive line, you don't want to get worn down by Purdue or get blown out by Ohio State. It starts here with recruiting. If you get better guys, it's less likely that that's going to happen, because recruiting can, the more talented players you have, the higher ceiling your team can achieve. It's just facts. You need to recruit well if you want to compete with the best of the best. Whedon committed to offensive line coach and primary recruiter Chris Kapilovic following an official visit this past weekend in East Lansing. Many of Michigan State's recent commitments were almost immediately after their visits, which shows you how good of an environment East Lansing is, and how the staff and the current players there are amazing recruiters in their own right and know how to put on a good show, know how to pitch well. These are all things that you need to be a great recruiter. Tucker was directly involved in this recruitment as well. The 4-star O-lineman had an official visit to Auburn, scheduled for June 24th, though it is currently uncertain if those plans have changed now that Whedon is committed to Michigan State. Another thing, too, you out-recruited an SEC school. That's huge. Whedon had around 35 offers from FBS schools. This included Alabama, Florida, Florida State, Georgia, LSU, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, many others according to this article. Whedon was the Spartans' second commitment in the matter of hours on June 14th, joining Texas 4-star cornerback Jalen Braxton, who committed earlier on the 14th. The pair of recruits were the 4th and 5th 4-star prospects to commit to Michigan State in the last 7 days. Wow. That's that right there. If that doesn't speak to good recruiting, then I don't know what does. Like maybe 3 5-stars in a week, which I don't know if anyone except Nick Saban or Kirby Smart has achieved that, both of whom Tucker coached under, by the way. With the commitments of Whedon and Braxton, Michigan State's 2023 recruiting class moved up to number 8th in the country. It's moved down 1 spot to 9th, directly ahead of powerhouses Georgia and Clemson. Clemson moved ahead of them because they got a commit. They're still ahead of Georgia, though, which again, a mark of good recruiting. Whedon joins current high school teammate Eddie Pleasant III, a 3-star cornerback, and 4-star linebacker Jordan Hall to give the Spartans 3 commits out of the state of Florida. Building a pipeline there is absolutely critical. Mel Tucker obviously knows this and has been working on it. Kapilovic has now secured 2 offensive linemen in this recruiting cycle, wanting to build depth, get better players in that offensive line, as Whedon joins Detroit Kings' Jonathan Slack as the newest member of the quote-unquote Juice Squad, MSU's nickname for the offensive line room. Kapilovic is actively recruiting a few more top 2023 prospects to add to the class. We'll talk about one of them who's a 5-star in a few minutes. Tucker and his staff continue to have rarely seen before success on the recruiting trail at Michigan State. The Spartans signed 5 4-stars in the class of 2022, which was more than Michigan State's 3 previous recruiting classes combined. The Spartans have not signed more than 5 4-stars in one class since 2016, when Mark D'Antonio signed 9 4-star prospects. Michigan State's only 2 4-star prospects away from surpassing that 2016 class's numbers. So that's crazy. Again, I'm going to link this article down below. And speaking of recruiting momentum, Michigan State getting 5 4-stars in a week, I think is what the article said. Let's briefly compare Michigan and Michigan State's recruiting classes. This, to me, as a Michigan fan, is sad. Now, who knows? This might change. Michigan might get more momentum later on than Michigan State will, and Michigan might end up passing Michigan State. Last year, Michigan State at one point, I do believe, had a higher recruiting class than Michigan. It was brief, it happened, and Michigan got more recruits late. They got a lot of mid to high tier 4-stars later on, and that helped bump them up in the rankings to eventually surpass Michigan State. So it can happen, but it's looking pretty good for the Spartans right now in comparison to their arch rival, the Michigan Wolverines. Michigan State has 11 hard commits. Andrew DePape is their highest commit. He is a top 200 prospect out of Iowa, a defensive lineman who committed February 2nd, one of the earlier commits to the Spartan class. Him and Jonathan Slack committed on the same day, February 2nd of this year. Michigan, on the other hand, just has 6 hard commits. Raylan Wilson, who committed last year, December 8th, who's a linebacker out of Florida, is Michigan's highest commit. He is a top 100 prospect. He is 15th in the state of Florida. He is a linebacker. So, classes both have some highly touted guys. Michigan right now is in the running for more 5-stars, it seems. They're in the running for 4 or 5. Michigan State's actually in the running for 2 of them, though. So both programs are trying to recruit at a high level. They're going out there both working. Michigan State has the edge in the fact that Mel Tucker can say, rightfully so, that he's 2-0 against Michigan and against Jim Harbaugh. He can also use the fact that Jim Harbaugh was trying to get the Vikings job a few months ago, and that Michigan, despite just announcing a new collective, and I think that they will eventually catch up, I think the collective might just be the start of that, Michigan State, for now, has still been more ahead and more innovative when it comes to name, image, and likeness deals. So Michigan State, again, is just taking advantage. Michigan isn't being as much of an opportunist as I would like them to be. We'll see where both of these classes go, but I think we can just end this comparison on a positive note and say that both of these programs will probably have pretty good recruiting classes. Michigan, with their easy schedule and how good of a team I think they will be, I have them ranked as my number 4. I think they'll be the 4th best team. It doesn't mean they'll reach the playoff, though, as I think they lose to Ohio State. But I have them winning nearly every other game. Actually, exactly every other game, as many of you who watch this channel know. I think an 11-1 record, the NIL collective, and the offense that they will have will bring in a lot of commits in the fall and on National Signing Day in the early signing period. Michigan State, I don't think they will be an 11-10 win team. I have them going 8-4. I could see them going 9-3 as well. I have them going 8-4, losing to Ohio State, Maryland, Michigan, and Penn State. And that it sounds more negative than it actually is, I guess is the best way to put it. I just think that with Michigan State's issues on the offensive line, their issues at secondary, and those issues won't be fixed overnight. They don't have the talent to fix those issues overnight. And losing a generational running back in Kenneth Walker, some other pieces, the whole team is very likely, I'm 99% sure, not going to be as good as last year. But the program's still on an upward trajectory, and I think the fact that Michigan State just winning 8 games, still developing, Jaden Reed is going to be a guy whose name is going to be called in the NFL draft. I think the same thing is going to happen with Jacob Slade and others as well. So Michigan State still having that good reputation, still being competitive in the Big Ten, winning 8 games, Michigan winning 11, I think. That's just my predictions. I think that both of these teams are going to finish with great recruiting classes, but from what it seems like, I would not be surprised at all if Michigan State finished with a higher recruiting class than Michigan, and that should excite Michigan State fans. Again, number 9 recruiting class nationally, Michigan's is number 38. That's a big difference. Michigan has a lot of ground to make up. Michigan State here, they have all the momentum. They're going to use it. And I think that especially through the end of the summer, and it very well could continue through the end of this cycle and even beyond that, despite the fact that I think they will lose some games, they're going to use that momentum. Their summer visits are good. They know how to pitch. They know how to recruit. Brandon Jordan and the staff upgrades they made are getting recruits' attention. They're legit. Michigan State's a legitimate recruiting threat to most programs nationally outside of, I'd say, the 1%. And even then, in saying that, Michigan State could possibly flip safety Elliott Washington from Alabama. So Michigan State could be a threat to every program in the nation when it comes to recruiting. In conclusion, which, you normally don't say that, but it fits here, the number 9 class is just a success. I think it's going to remain a success, and with several months left, MSU already has 11 commits. Out of those 11, 8 of them are 4 stars according to 24/7 Sports. You go to On3, and according to On3, only 5 of them are 4 stars, but that's still successful. On3 is this newer service. They're more user-friendly, I would say. They do have a large database, but I still trust 24/7 Sports a bit more. But using multiple ranking sources, I think, is appropriate here. But honestly, 5 4 stars, 8 of them, that's still really good for Michigan State. On3 is Michigan State is the 14th nationally ranked recruiting class and 3rd in the Big Ten. And for 24/7 Sports, it's 9th nationally. It's 3rd in the Big Ten there as well, just behind Penn State and Ohio State. Same thing with On3. And 3 out of those 11 are players on the secondary. This is another thing I wanted to mention and talk about. This recruiting class, to me, I'm impressed with it because Michigan State is targeting weaknesses here. You have Chance Rucker, you have Eddie Pleasant III, you have Jalen Braxton. Those are 3 corners. Michigan State, as we know, very weak at corner, Amir Speed on the secondary, and he was a second stringer at Georgia last year. He is going to be by far their best coverage player. It's no mistake. You don't change a unit that was that bad last year around in a year. You need new players. You need to brush out and broom out who the current starters are. You need new blood. And Michigan State and Mel Tucker understand that. And they're recruiting guys who are going to be the future of better secondary units. And it's the same thing with the offensive line. Clay Whedon, Jonathan Slack, and you know who the 5-star is now who's on the offensive line, and Samson Okunlola. If you get him, you have a solid offensive line. A solid offensive line that could be birthed from this 2023 recruiting class. 4-star Andrew DePape, again, is the top commit. And if Michigan State can just keep getting in some 4-stars and being in the running for 5-stars, they were in for Keontae Goodwin last year, who committed to Kentucky. They were in it with him until the very end, and he was a 5-star offensive line player. So if Michigan State can get a 5-star, even if they don't get a 5-star, but just keep loading up on these 4-stars, keep improving step by step, getting better recruiting classes, trending upward in recruiting, in record, Michigan State has a bright future. And recruiting, as Josh Pate says, and if I have said before because I agree with it, can't really disagree with much of what he says, recruiting is the lifeblood of college football. And Michigan State's taking this seriously. They want to win games, they want to play ball, they want to recruit, they want to develop. And those things right there build a good football team. They build a great football team. So if you're a Michigan State fan, you should be excited. You should celebrate that you right now are in the top 10. Just cracking that gives you extra momentum. Again, 8 4-stars according to 24/7 Sports. That's phenomenal. And I'm a Michigan fan, and I'm even sitting here being excited about this right now because it's like a new program's coming in, and Michigan State stepping up their game, I think, will eventually force Michigan to step up their game because of the rivalry that we have. I can't wait for the Michigan State showdown. I can't wait to see how Michigan State recruiting does from here on out. Can't wait to see how Michigan State football does in the fall. And I can't wait for college football in general. And that is where I will conclude this episode. If you are new to this channel, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, click the notification bell, and comment your thoughts down below on Michigan State's 2023 recruiting class. How do you think Michigan State will do this fall? I'm a Big Ten guy. I cover Michigan State, Michigan, Nebraska, Ohio State mostly, but I'll touch up on Penn State, Wisconsin, Purdue, Iowa, the whole Big Ten, and touch up nationally as well. So make sure to, again, if you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, like this video, click the notification bell, and comment your thoughts down below. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you guys around. Bye.